I was driving through the farmlands of Iowa this morning, and Iowa in the summer is really pretty. It's lush and it's green, and the corn stretching on the horizon. Right now it's tasseling, so some of it's yellow. It's very pretty. You see old oak trees that have been there for generations. Beautiful gravel roads, farmhouses, creeks winding through the timber. It's easy to believe places like this will always exist. We inherit them, and somewhere along the way, we began believing that they'll simply remain. I was listening to some of the rollbacks of environmental protections that the Trump administration is doing, and I couldn't help but think about that as I'm looking at all of this land, and I especially think about it at our cabin. We used to see bald eagles, multiple a day, a couple years back, last year. This year is the first year that we've noticed a change. So that prompted me to kind of look into it more, maybe make a video about the lands that we inherit. We do sometimes think that they'll be around forever. But history tells us something very different. There's this illusion of permanence. And once we get used to seeing something around, we assume it will be there forever. We've got our national parks, our historic buildings, forests, prairies, and clean rivers. And nitrates in water levels in Iowa is something that has significantly gotten worse over the years. And we've had a governor who didn't do much about it. And now we have a president who doesn't want to do much about it, or protection of boundary waters that just happened in Minnesota. The protections of wildlife, like I just mentioned, the eagles. And then we have more structural type of things, the old downtowns, the family farms. People don't just wake up one morning and decide that they want to destroy these places. Instead, they simply assume that someone else is protecting them. That's somebody else's job. Somebody else can talk about that. We have something that's kind of like the invisible system, right? We have laws, regulations, historical preservations, conservation groups, scientists, volunteers, park rangers. These things often go unnoticed precisely because they're working. Protection is one of those things we rarely notice until it's gone. On my way into town this morning, I couldn't help from seeing the green. It reminded me of the Lord of the Rings. In Lord of the Rings, the hobbits discover that evil is everywhere and destroying things. Saruman's destroying nature. He's ripping apart everything that has been there forever. And one of them says, I just want to go back to the Shire. And the other one, maybe it's Murray or maybe it's Sam, I don't remember. I'm getting all mixed up. But they simply say, basically, this is coming for the Shire. There will be no more Shire to go back to. And I couldn't help but think about that this morning as I'm driving through this lush green lands, and as I live by a river and the timber, and the protections, the laws, the regulations that we don't know about a lot. It's not an everyday thing that you check off that you're seeing if the protections are still in place. You trust officials, our governments, to take care of those things. And they're not being taken care of. And whether Tolkien intended for that or not, that symbolism, that imagery, beautiful places don't stay beautiful automatically. So what are environmental protections? They're protections that have been put in place by nonpartisan people. Some of those, for example, are clean drinking water standards, air pollution limits, wetland protections, national forest management, mining restrictions, and historic preservation reviews. Also very important is the wildlife habitat protections. Having those protections in place doesn't mean that nature never changes or that things need to be addressed or maybe adjusted. Instead, they slow down decisions. They require review. They require public input, and they require experts. They also require alternatives. Think of them like guardrails on a mountain road. Guardrails don't stop you from driving. They simply keep one bad decision from becoming irreversible. And that's my fear right now that's happening with the Trump administration. And I urge you to not just take my word for it or this video or what you're hearing. Dive into this, examine it, find some information for yourself, find out what protections have been rolled back and what's planning to be rolled back. Right now, the boundary waters up in Minnesota, those protections have been rolled back. The previous federal withdrawal that limited mineral leasing around the boundary waters has been reversed, reopening the possibility of mining exploration near the watershed. Supporters argue that this helps secure domestic supplies of critical minerals and creates jobs. Opponents worry about acid mine drainage and the unique vulnerability of interconnected lakes. That's a very valid concern. Knowing that information, then ask, how much risk is acceptable for a place that can't truly be replaced? Another concern of mine that kind of spurred this video is the historic preservation aspect. Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act. Section 106 does not prevent projects. It requires agencies to consider effects on historic properties and consult with interested parties before moving forward. Proposals to streamline or narrow these reviews concern preservation groups because less review can mean fewer opportunities to identify or avoid damage. This is bigger than one building, and I'm talking about the Eisenhower building that Trump wants to paint white. It's about the process. And then we have the environmental review. Efforts to shorten environmental review timelines undergo laws like the National Environmental Protection Agency. Supporters say lengthy review delay infrastructure and energy projects. Critics argue that reducing review can mean less consideration of environmental impacts and fewer opportunities for public participation, especially when big corporations are behind this push. Neither side is necessarily arguing against all development. The disagreement is about how much review is appropriate before major decisions are made. And can one administration bypass all of those reviews? That's what's important about Section 106. So why is this important, even if you plan not to visit specific sites or historical sites? There's an interconnectedness in our world. Clean water, migrating birds, pollinators, watersheds, forests, historic identity. I was just listening to NPR, and they were talking about a swamp in Florida who has the same status in the global historic preservation as the Taj Mahal, all of these things, because of the uniqueness of it. What if the protections against that were rolled back? You don't have to hike the Boundary Waters. You don't have to visit Yellowstone or go to the swamp in Florida. You don't have to see a Civil War battlefield. Their existence enriches the country anyway. Some places belong to all of us precisely because they don't belong to any one of us or any administration. The creek behind your house is connected to another creek. The water flowing from the fields in Iowa with all of the nitrates flow into our main rivers. And that all those main rivers flow into the Mississippi, which in turn flows all the way down and empties into a gulf in Louisiana. Everything touches something else. This isn't just about environmental policy. It's about citizenship. It's about asking questions instead of giving answers. What do we owe future generations? Should every generation leave the world exactly as they found it? Or should they leave it better? Reasonable people can disagree about mining and energy or development. But those disagreements should be informed by understanding what protections exist, why they were created, and what changes are being proposed. I love Iowa sunsets. And we have big oak trees that are just beautiful and strong and blow in the wind and have been there for centuries. We have wind blowing through the prairies, rivers, forests, timber. The hardest part about losing something beautiful is that it rarely disappears all at once. It happens one decision at a time, one administration at a time, one exception, one shortcut, one compromise, until one day, someone who has never known anything different believes this is simply the way it has always been. Stewardship isn't about resisting change, and it doesn't have a political line. It's about asking whether the change leaves the world richer or poorer. We don't inherit the land from the past. We borrow it from the future. So the question is, what will we hand back? I hope this video invokes some thought, a pause, and reflection. Because environmental policies aren't about being Republican or Democrat. It's about conservation and stewardship and being a good citizen of what the land has bestowed on us to take care of. Welcome to the White Rose Resistance.